Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday, March 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. I'm back in the office from my vacation, and as usual, my inbox is slammed for email, so just bear with me. I'll get back to you. I'll try to answer all of them as soon as I can. Probably take me another day or so to catch up, but I'm working on it. Let's take a look at the chart and get through this. Not a lot of trades today, not a lot of movement today. Although we did have what looks like somewhat of a reversal day. Looks a lot like this, even though it was a temporary reversal. You can see we had one here. But that's what this looks like. It looked like we were going to have a range day or maybe even an up day early on. But we had a perfect measured move on the width of the range. It touched that, turned down, and we sold off pretty strongly actually, and we sold off and we closed almost on the very low. So it looks like a reversal day. Doesn't mean that we'll get any follow through selling tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see how the day goes. Generally, we don't get more than a day or two sell off at a time, and then it rallies. So you can see we'd have a couple of days either sideways or selling after every one of these new highs. So my guess is at some point that'll change, but wouldn't surprise me if we continue to get more of that at this point. So, but there it is. It looks like a bearish reversal type day that traded to new highs today and then turned around and sold off. So let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart so we can see how the day played out, and we'll go through the trades. Won't take long because there aren't many, and we'll wrap this day up. Okay, here's a look at our 2,000 tick chart. You can see we were in this blue range early on, and really we spent a little bit of time in this pink range. It's even tighter. We broke out of here, finally broke out the top of the blue range, and notice a measured move would be this dashed line, meaning that the width from this blue line to this dashed line is the exact same height or width as this blue line and this blue line. And so that's a perfect measured move. We actually pushed a little higher before we sold off, and then suddenly this thing sold off, and it looks like we probably got two measured legs down. I haven't measured them yet, but let's just measure them and see. Didn't quite get a measured move, but it's close. But you can see it, two legs down. Came up a little bit short, closed before that. It's after 4 now, so market won't open back up for another hour. It opened back up at 5. But there's the gist of the day, and you can pretty much see it. If you saw it, it looks like there's a channel working up through here too. I didn't really play it that way because you had to respect this resistance here. But it's there, and if you played that, there's nothing wrong with it. It's there. I see it as well. It doesn't really change anything here. It might have given you a little more faith in going short, although we haven't turned down off that previously, but you can clearly see the midlines working through there. So in my opinion, there's a little spike and mild channel up there. But I still think the range is the way you had to play this. And you see this big move that broke out. I mean, maybe it still fits. Let's move it up here and see. And it does. It still fits, but it doesn't help you a whole lot. You can see we turned down right at a midline there. Maybe that's a little higher than that. But I still think you were better off to play it. It fits really well there, the midline, and the problem is you have this range and you had this resistance here, and you can see the range was still in play even here after the failed breakout. So if you played the channel, that's great. If you saw it, if you played it this way with the range, which I think was the proper way to trade it, to be safe, you didn't get burned on this resistance across here. So anyway, let's zoom in and we'll go through the trades. Like I said, there's a few early on and then just some green ones in the afternoon. It just wasn't a very good afternoon. But let's go through these trades and see what we got here. And of course, early on, we had this real tight range, and suddenly you get this channel working down. And it looks like you finally get a close outside here, and you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry right here, big bearish bar. I like going short there. Technically, there was a reversal here. It's not really where you want to see one. If it would have broke below this bar and went on, I'd say maybe you trade that like a trout. But then you get this inside bar, and generally they don't make very good signal bars. So I think you just have to skip that. It runs down here and finds some support, and then finally makes a higher low with plenty of room back to the EMA. I like going long right there. You never know when you get lucky and catch the low of the day, but at the very least, hopefully you catch the low of the range and it's headed back to the upper side, which it was, but it turns out we start finding all this resistance across here. So it probably wasn't worth continuing to hang on to this, especially when we're working sideways here. Can't get through that midline. But you can see we had we had multiple tests here. You might have even called this a triple test. It's just a first entry long, and there's not much room to the high is the problem here. So I didn't mark it, but finally it comes back here and it breaks out and fails and turns up. I like trading that one on the engulfing bar. There's a little stem on this one, but it's mostly bearish, and it's gonna, when it breaks lower there, if it fails and turns back and goes out this upper side, it's gonna trap people on the failed breakout. We're looking, we want to try to find a way to enter on a failed breakout. And I like entering that one on the engulfing bar. We had already broken out the high before we broke out the lows, so you might even go long right here, although it's right at the highs. I still think there's room to get out there, so I think you could even go long right there. If it hadn't have broke higher above that midline already like this, I would say no way you want to go long there, but it's already kind of pushed through and kind of cleaned out some of the sales, so the odds are we'll probably retest that high, which we do. This thing just kind of makes its own channel back up here. It looks like I had it drawn wrong there in the end. It's just like it's just one channel up there. You get a close outside, new high, and then it turns down. Unfortunately, you don't really get a good chance to trade this. This looks a little congested. If you went short right there, I mean, I didn't mark it, but if you did go short right there, you have to be real careful with it because of this engulfing bar. Technically, your stop has to go up here when that bar closes, because that made the swing high, but your entry would have been one tick below that. And I believe it broke lower and then turned up, and that might have stopped some of you out. But generally what I'll do on an engulfing bar, if I still like my trade, I'm going to move it above the previous swing high, which would have been over here. And as soon as this bar closes, you move your stop one tick above it. So it just depends on how you played it. And I don't remember which way that broke first. Runs down, you get a close outside, then you're working towards a new low here. Technically, this looks like a channel up with a close outside, and it doesn't quite make a new high because of the resistance of the channel there, the pink channel. And it just starts working its way lower. This could be a retest of this move down here, but this almost looks like another channel to me. And so I drew it. You do get a close outside and a couple of swings down, and then it bounces. And again, a very nice signal bar there. I like just going long. You got plenty of room to get out before these highs. And that's exactly where it goes to. Comes back, bounces higher here, and ends up breaking out and testing the upper side of the range. I don't really like going short there. Then quickly you get a break, and then notice there's a new low, and so you get a first entry, and then it comes back, you get a lower high and a second entry short. This is a double bottom, so you could count that both ways, but to me this looks like a second entry here. First entry, second entry, and it takes a minute, but it moves on down, and you continue to chop lower. It looks very similar. It looks like almost like a repeat pattern of this. I didn't redraw it again, but like I said, you could, because it really looks like a repeat pattern. And of course, just like over here, you get your break, move to a new low, and then it bounces. I marked this one green, but seeing if you saw the repeat pattern, maybe you take that. But the problem is it makes a much lower low than these past ones, and then it makes a higher low than off this low down here. So it could tick up and turn back down again and test these lows down here. So, but I like taking that one higher, to be honest, because we bounced across that midline 1, 2, 3. That's the fourth time in a row. Turns out to be a pretty good move. Of course, we're just looking for a scalp out of it. And of course, you got this channel working up, close outside, move to a new high, and then it turns down. This is a little risky, but it's a nice reversal bar way away from the EMA, so maybe you want to risk it. I marked it green. It was easy scalp, and then we're just chopping along before we drop lower. There's no way to get into this coming down. And then it bounces here again, and then we're just chopping. We're stuck between the high of the original high of the range and some support here. But notice you get a multiple test here, triple test, but there's not room to get out. And then you break higher and fail and come back and make a higher low with a nice signal bar. If it breaks above that, we're probably going to at least test these highs across here. These, and then we might move a measured move, which we ended up doing. So this turns out to be a great move here. I marked it green. I don't think you can argue for that to be red. The problem is it's back into this resistance, but we just broke out of there. So the odds are high that we're going to at least retest that high right there if it breaks higher. And it does. You see we tested it. It looked like it was going to turn down, but then that acted as support again, and it took off. Runs up. We get a close outside, and then a first entry, then a pullback with a little higher low and a second entry long. Plenty of room to get out. I like that one. The reason I made this one green instead of blue, it's real close because we didn't quite get back to the EMA, and we've been away from it for a while there. So I really think you just, because it's not quite back to the EMA, because it could break higher and pull back and give you a triple test, then go up. But this thing takes off. And it is a second entry. There is plenty of room to get out. So I at least mark this one green. And of course it does run up, make a new high, and it turns down, closes back inside. Technically that's not a second entry. You might say it looks like two legs up, but we're making, this is your last new low, and so you get a first entry, second entry, third entry, fourth entry. That's like a fifth entry. So it's not a second entry short, which some people will call it that because they'll see the two legs back. But that's not a new low. It's not lower than the last low, which is here, which is not lower than the previous one, which is here, which is not lower than the previous one than that's there, and that one was lower. So that's where your low count starts. So I just marked it green. It does come back again, but no setup over here, and then it just, the bottom just falls out. We get that quick bearish leg down, correction, and then another leg down. And we didn't quite make two legs down as we talked about earlier. It's a shame we didn't get an entry up here, but that's the way it goes sometimes. There is a little breakout pullback short right here, but it's after 230, And I don't know that I would take that. I'd want to see it at least test it one more time and give me a second entry. But generally, I want to see it tested 3 times. But since we had made a measured move, 2 tests would probably be good enough. And you might, with that being off the trend line and a bearish bar, if you had more room there, maybe you argue for a green there. But it's just not much room to scalp out. And you see it almost bounces. So I just think you have to skip that one, especially that late in the day, because if you end up with a loser there, you don't have, you don't have a chance to make it back. So, but there it is again. I mean, really, for all intents and purposes, the easy trades were over by 9:30, and the rest of these are just green. Although a couple of them are close to being red or blue, it's just, you got to be careful with them. So they're not sure things. So because of that, I marked them green. But anyway, that's how I saw it today. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm working on getting caught up, which hopefully I'll be caught up in another day or so and try to get back on track here. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.